Hey folks, welcome to another online meetup. My name is Max Katz and I do everything education community for Okta Workflows. Now today's topic is getting started with Okta Workflows and specifically working with lists. Now this is our monthly getting started meetup. It's every Tuesday, every first Tuesday of the month. And I placed a link at the bottom of your screen. It says getting started with Okta Workflows videos. So if you go there, it has all our prior getting started meetups recordings, right? So again, we do this every month, but if you want to, and we do a different topic every month. So if you would like to go and see what we did before, so click on that link. And again, specifically today, we're going to talk about how to work with lists, and then we'll learn how to use the for each card, how to use the streaming option, and then we will also how to work with lists when you get data from an external API. Okay, so this event is being recorded and the replay will be available on Crowdcast right after we end the session, and then also on YouTube. I'll send you a follow-up message tomorrow with a link to YouTube. If you're new to this, please follow our Crowdcast channel. You should be able to follow us. It's in the sort of upper right corner on your screen. And also register for upcoming events. So go to our channel, and we have one more online meetup coming up in a few weeks, and that will be about the connector builder. So I'm going to show how to build a connector to an API using the Okta Workflows connector builder. Okay, so that's the next event. All right. And as always, if you have any questions, please, you can put them in chat. There's also a separate Q&A section. So either place is fine. And then in the very first column there in the slide that I'm showing, that's my email. So if you have any questions after the event, please don't hesitate to contact me. All right. That's it. That's the only slide that I have. So let me move this off the screen and then we'll get started. All right. I'm just going to wait for just a sec here. All right, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to build a few examples, and then as I build examples, again, I'll show you how you work with lists. Now, you're going to be, if you're building with workflows, at some point, and probably relatively sort of early in your work with workflows, you're going to, get into a situation, where you need to work with lists, right? A list of data, whether it's users, groups, or any other type of record, right? Now, whether you're getting some information from Okta or from any other API, you're going to get a list of something, right? And so you need to be able to work with lists. Now, when I say work with lists, I mean, how do you process the list? How do you go over each item and then do something with it, right? Now, we're not going to cover what you do with the item, but how do you process a list? How do you set up a flow where you can get each item at a time, and then you sort of inspect it and, again, do whatever you want with that sort of in later flow steps. Okay, so today is really about setting up working with lists. I've got a one flow here. I'm going to come back to this in just 10 or so minutes. We're going to use this last. So first, I'm going to create a new flow, and I'm going to call this for each, and I'm going to save. Okay, and I'm going to use the Okta connector, and specifically, I'm going to use, let's see here. See users. I want to say users with list. Yeah, this one. So I'm going to use list users with filter. And again, you can use any other action that returns a list. It's going to be very similar. All right. And so with Okta, you get an option here to usually return the first 200 matching records or streaming. So for now, we're going to use this option, and I'm going to talk about streaming also. right? And then I'm going to save. And then for the inputs, I'm not really worried about this. I'm just going to keep the status, and the outputs are fine. All right. And then I can choose the status, right? What kind of people or folks, users I want to return. And in my case, I'm going to use staged. And always with this option, when you use the 200 records, you can test this card and just kind of see. I only have 3 users, I believe. But so you know this works. Okay. But again, how do you set this up so you process each user at a time and look at their email or whatever other information you want to do? Okay. So for this to work, what you need to do is you need to use a card called for each, right? And it's kind of a loop that allows you to process the list one at a time. And it's a function card, and I can search for it, but it's in the list. It's in the list category right here. So instead of searching, I can also just go to list, and this is the for each right here. Okay. And it has sort of 2 inputs. Has the list. So the list is right here. This is the user list. Okay, so I'm going to take the users and connect it like this. And then it's asking me for a helper flow. So the way you process a list and workflows is you need to use a helper flow, right? So the thing is with this particular card is that I don't have a helper flow yet. Okay, and so it's not going to let me actually save. It's going to give me an error because it's asking, well, you need to set up helper flow. So what I usually do is when I work with list is that it's common to do this. You get the list and you use the for each, but then again you can't save. So what I usually do, I actually sort of don't add this card first. What I do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to create a helper flow. And of course, this is just my personal preference. I mean, it's entirely up to you how you do this. But let's create a new flow first, and we'll call this for each helper. And I'm gonna okay. Now, and to make a help, so this is the flow, of course, a regular flow first of all. Now, to make this a helper flow, you click on the first card and then you select a helper flow card as the first one. And so that's where a flow becomes a helper flow. Mm-hmm. And so this is how it looks. Now, what you do is now you need to define inputs on the helper flow. Okay. Now, because on the previous flow, I get users, and that's an object. So right here, I can do the name is up to you, but maybe you want to call it a record, so just maybe to keep it a little bit more generic. But you do need to say this is an object. So the type is important. You want to save the right type here, right? And so this is enough for us. I mean, the flow doesn't do anything, but this is sufficient. So let's go back. And let's open the first flow. And now going back, let's search for each. And again, it's asking me for the list. And so this is the users. I'm going to take the users and connect it like this. Now I do have my helper flow, and I'm going to choose flow. And now I'm going to scroll to the folder, which is right here, and then 2024, and I am in May. All right, and this is the helper folder that I just created. And I'm going to click choose. All right, and now this works fine. Now I can save. All right. Now, and what I do next is I don't go build the rest of the flow. I just want to make sure that the data is passed into the helper flow, right? And so this is already enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the helper flow, and notice right here there is a little this icon here or button that you can open the helper flow. And not here, but this little icon. It opens the helper flow, and I'm going to first turn it on. So the helper flow has to be on, or you're going to get an error. Actually, you know what would be a good idea? Let me show you how this looks. So my helper flow is off. This is to demonstrate an error. I'm going to turn this flow on. All right. and I'm going to run. Oh, sorry, I forgot one important thing. Completely forgot. Apologize. This is not part of the script. I I set up the list. I set up the helper flow, but I am not passing any data to the helper flow, right? Actually, it would be a good thing to run and see that it doesn't work, but I got there before. So right here, notice it says with the following values, right? And then now I can select what values from the list I want to pass into the helper flow. Okay, let me do this again just to show you quickly. So I'm going to delete this card and I'm going to go back for each. So notice the input is not here with what values is not shown here. It will be only you will only see it once I select the helper flow because it's based on the inputs I defined in the helper flow. So let's do this again. So, right now I'm going to choose a flow. I just have to go find my online meetups. And helper flow. So notice now this appeared. All right. And so now I'm going to go and I'm going to select. So I want to pass the entire object. All right. I'm going to pass the entire object. And this is what I do. So I'm going to click save and let's run this. And again, we should see an error now. All right. And we get an error and it says flow is not active. Okay. So when you get this error, it's straightforward to fix it. We open the helper flow and we turn it on. We go back and we run it again. Right? And now we have success. Now I'm going to go to the helper flow and I have 3 records. So I should see 3 runs, right? And that's what I see here. I got 3 runs because I got 3 users. And now what this is also very helpful just to do this kind of setup is you can see what data the main flow passes to the helper flow. So this is the record and you can see that it passes a user. And this is all the information. This is all the user information that the main flow passes to the helper flow, right? This is just a JSON object. And then you can look at the second or the first one and see all this information. Now, so you get this information and now you can do whatever you need with this data inside the helper flow, right? So let's read some information. And I'm going to use a card called get multiple. And then what it does is that it allows to extract data from a JSON object. Okay. And what it does is that I take the record, and I pass it like this. And now I need to set up the keys that I want to extract. All right. So I want to do login, and I just remember the names, but you would look at the JSON. Again, I'll show you. So you would look here. Oh, so there's login, and I want to do first name. I want to do last name. I'm sorry, last name right here. All right, so, and then first name, and then let's do last name. Now, I'm going to make a mistake on purpose again. This is lowercase n, right? Just I mistyped, for example. Now, you can test this entire flow again, but you can also test this individual card. I mean, how would you do that is that we go back to history, execution history, and we're going to open this record, and I'm going to copy this to clipboard. Right? And then I'm going to go back, and I'm going to test this, and now I can just paste this object. And I want to see if my keys are correct. I'm going to click test, and you see, okay, the login is working, the first name is working, but the last name is not showing. And then I realize, oops, I actually misspelled. The N has to be uppercase, right? So this will help you see the errors before you run the entire flow. So then you go on this field. You can delete it and just create a new one. That's an option. Another option is you click the type and then go all the way to customize, and then you can edit this like this. That's another option. All right. And let's test this again. I still have the object. And then you can see the whole object is here. click test. Oh, and now this works. Perfect. All right, let's run the flow again, from the main flow. All right, and success. And then we should have 3 more runs. And exactly, we have 3 more runs here. And then I look, oh, and I extract the information from each user that the helper flow gets. All right, you can see the first one, the second one, and the third one, whatever the order is. All right. So this is kind of a very sort of straightforward or basic setup, right? You get a list right here. You get a list, and then you specify helper flow, and you pass the entire object to the helper flow. Okay, and then you can extract whatever information you need. Now, so this is fine. I mean, this works fine. Now, if you visit the docs, for best practices right here, best practices for building flows. So there's one thing that says avoid passing lists into helper flows, right? So of course, you're passing a lot of data that you don't necessarily need in the helper flow. So what the recommendation is to only pass the information you need, okay? So for example, let's say that I don't need all this information about a user. I only need the user's email or login, let's say, right? So let me show you how to do that. I'm going to keep this record here. But if you need to pass only specific field, what you would do is you would create a field here, and let's call this email. Right? And the field is, the type is text, which is correct in this case. So I set an email here. Now, if I go back, I don't see the field here, right? What I need to do is I need to sort of specify this helper flow again, and then when I specify the helper flow, it reads the flow inputs, and then it shows the inputs here, right? So again, the inputs are based on what is configured on the helper flow. So how do I update the inputs? Well, so I click here on the helper flow, and then it's already selected, and then I do choose. Oh, so I did choose, and this is, again, also not part of the script, but I'm actually glad that I got this. I don't see my email here, right? I only see the record, right? Now, what happened is I forgot to save the helper flow, right? You can see save. So I'm going to save, and I'm going to go back, and I'm going to choose the helper flow. Again, it's already chosen, so I'm going to just click the button, and now I have the email, right? So again, the values here is what the helper flow defines. So that's how this works. So if you change the inputs in the helper flow, you need to go back and refresh it here, all right? Now, for the record, I'm just going to use the item, right? That's the whole object again, and that's fine. But for the email, so notice now I can select just a specific field, let's say email here, all right? So, if you want to go based on the sort of recommendations, then you would just remove the record, right, and only pass the email, right? But let's go to helper flow. We got the email here, and let's just use a card so we can see it, assign, and just take the email, save, sorry, and then so we can see the email field, right? And let's run this. All right, let's go to helper, and we got the email. All right, so right here, first or last, the one in the middle, and we get this email. All right. So that's how you set up the for each part. Again, I've shown you how to set up. You can pass the whole record and then extract data, but again, it is recommended to just pass the values that you need, and then that's how you would pass the values like this, just using, right? And again, if you change the inputs on the helper flow, you need to go back to the main flow and refresh that the for each, so the for each card sees the new inputs. All right. Let me check if there are any questions. I don't see any questions, but again, feel free to put them in chat. All right, let's move on to the next example, and which is, I'm going to use the same card, but now with the streaming option. Let me turn these flows off first. All right. Streaming. All right. And then we'll go to Okta and as user with filter. All right. And now I'm going to select stream records here, and I'm going to click save. And I'm going to inject these values. And then again, notice that you choose the helper flow right here on the card itself. So there's no using for each. But then I run into this problem again. It's like, oh, I don't have a helper flow. So I won't be able to save this flow. All right. So in these situations, what I usually do is I actually go back to options and I just switch back to just the matching, just the 200 records. Because what I can do this way, first of all, is that I can just test this card, just, hey, let me see if it returns any data for me. And it's going to return the same 3, right? So that's perfect. And I do this, and then I save, and then I exit, and then I create a helper flow for the streaming, and then I go back and change it. So let me do that. And then add event, and it's going to be a helper flow again. All right. Now, and then when you use the streaming option, there's very specific inputs that you need to define. All right. So the first one is called record, right? So you cannot change this name. It has to be record. And if you go to the workflows documentation, you'll see that. And it has to be an object, right? So the first one is just a record. Now the other one is called state, and it also has to be an object, right? And I'll show you how you set both of them. Okay. So again, let's call this streaming. I got to name the flow. Helper. All right. Okay. So let's go back and open the. Oh, wait a minute. Where's my. Wait. What happened to my flow? Only see. No. I thought I created the other one. Maybe I didn't. Okay. Well, let me now create the streaming flow. The streaming. Save. And let's go to Okta. I thought I created this one. I guess I have to watch the video and see what I did there. So now that I have this, I'm going to use the streaming option. I'm going to click save. And then I can then check these values here. I'm going to check staged. And now here I'm going to use, and it's the same thing, where I go and choose the helper flow. Then on my meetups, streaming helper. All right. And notice that you don't need to really specify any inputs or anything. And so what Workflows is going to do, this is a very optimized, this is a much more optimized way to stream data. It will automatically set up everything behind the scenes, and it will stream all the records to the helper flow. So this is a much sort of, I would say, faster way, especially if you have a lot of records. This is the recommended way to do it. Okay. And again, this approach will be faster than using for each because it's done behind the scenes. It's set up automatically. I don't remember if I have, if I don't have the docs open for streaming, where it talks about that this is an optimized way to, oh, here we go. Use streaming actions when possible. So streaming actions take a list of results and automatically execute the helper flow for each item. This process is optimized so that the parent flow paginates through the data and creates the helper flow with low memory consumption. All right, so this is this right here. Okay, but let's see how this works. Let me save and let's turn this on. Let's open the helper flow. Right, and then just turn this on and let's run. All right, and this is the helper flow. And then again, you can see the record, the 3 records, right, passed into the helper flow. And of course, it's going to be the same user object than before. Okay, so if you want to read this data, you would use something like get. I'm gonna go a little bit faster. Get multiple, and we'll do the same thing. And then we'll do login, and then first name, and then last name. All right, and then save. Let's run this. I'm going to click run on the main flow. And let's go here. Here we go. And we can see that we're reading the information. Okay, so this works very similar. Now, but what if we need to pass additional data to the helper flow, right? That's not part of the list. Maybe it's an email address or really any other information you want. And so this is what the state is for, right? And let's say right here, you want to pass an email, or just a static email address. So you would define the field under the state. We'll call this email. Okay. And now going back to the main flow, right here it says you can create another field. And so the name, so I call this email. The name and the type, they have to exactly match. So what I would do, and I call this email. And let's say you want to do like an admin email. So I would say admin at okta.com, right? Whatever, this is just a static value, but of course it can be a number or whatever else you need. Okay. So let's save. Let's go here. And I'm going to use assign just to read the value. And then I'm going to take the email and, all right, let's go back. Let's run this. And then all right, and we can see the admin here and here. And you know, I saw this issue before. For some reason, it's here, but it's not showing here. Not sure why, but it's the result is correct here. Let me run this again. Oh, sorry. Let me run this one more time. All right, let's see. All right, so we can see the email. All right, so this worked fine. All right, and you can see the information right here is passed. All right, so the record is the object from the list. Again, this has to be named the record, right? It has to be an object, exactly record like this. And then under state, you must define it, but it's optional to actually pass any data. Okay, so I am passing email. You know, I put the value right here, but of course you can have cards before this that would, create the email or whatever else information, right? So it doesn't need to be hard coded on the card right here. But that's how you pass information, additional information to the helper flow when you use the streaming option. Okay, but again, it's important that you have the record and the state, or you're going to get really unpredictable results. So those values or these names and the types are important. Okay, very good. I know we're a little bit over time, but I still need to show you one last um, um, thing that I want to show you, and that's let me when you get data from an external list. So, and that's why I have this random user, okay? And I save this URL. So we're going to call this random user API. It's a simple, it's a free API that just has sample user information that you can use. And I save this so I don't have to type it. And I'm going to use HTTP connector card, and I'm going to use a get. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass the URL like this. Right? Let me show you. So I'm getting 10 users, and I'm only including name, email, and location. If you're interested, it's random user.me, and it has some different options, but just again returns random user information. All right, let's run this flow. And we just get 10 users and just information like name, location, and email. All right. So how do I pass this? Well, let's first create a helper flow again, so we have to, so we can save. Remember the thing with the helper flow. And all right, so we'll call this random user helper. Now this was going to be using for each, right? The streaming is only available for the Okta cards actions. So this is going to be a helper, and let's just do the record. We'll just pass the entire thing. But again, remember that it's better to just pass specific values. And I'm going to make this to be an object. I'm not going to add any cards because as long as you get the record here, you know how to extract values. And let's go back. And then random user, this one. And then I'm going to use the for each. All right. Now, so right here is that I get, this is the response, right? So this is the status code from the HTTP response, headers, and the body. Now, if I go back, oh, I'm not saving data. Here we go. So let me delete this. Let me run this one more time so you can see the result there. And I know this, of course, ahead of time, but you would just need to kind of give it a try and test. But I get the body, but so what I actually need is the result is the list, right? So this is the value that I need. This is the list right here. This is the list that I need to pass to the for each. Now, the body is not what I need. So I need the results, right? If I go back again, I always forget the actual name. So you look open here, and it says here, I'm going to copy this results. So what you sometimes need to do, and again, every API is going to be different, but you would need to define the list, and then you specify the type. So you make it an object, and then you make it a list, right? So you set the type, and now we use for each. And now we take not the body, but we take the results, right? And now we choose a flow. Let's scroll down. And this random user helper, right? and then we get the record. Again, we're passing the entire thing, and now we pass the entire user. All right. And let's open the helper flow and turn this on and run this. Right. So we passing, and then right here we have 10 runs, right? Because we have 10 users. And then we can see there's some information about this first user, and then the second user, and so on. But again, I'm not going to do anything else, but as long as you get this information into here, then you can do whatever you need with that information. All right. So that's how you set up a list when you get data from an external service. So you have to kind of just look at the JSON that you get back, and sometimes you would need to define this field and then pass it. Okay. Very good. Let me know if you have any questions. I don't see any questions right now, but let me know. One thing I'll just also mention right here, concurrency. What this means, if you're just curious, is that each item will be processed sort of one after another. So that's one. Now, if you want to speed up, if you have a large list, and if you want to speed up the processing, you can change the numbers to 2, 3, or 4, or 5. And what this means is that the items might be processed at the same time, right? The list items might be processed at the same time. So that's what it means. So if whatever data, it's okay to be processed simultaneously, then you can set up the concurrency number to a higher number. All right. Well, very good. That's all I wanted to show you. Well, let me see if there are any questions. Well, I don't see questions. But if you do have questions, you can always, again, let me put up my email again. My email is in that first column. Don't hesitate to reach out. Other than that, I think that's it. Again, follow our Crowdcast channel or register for upcoming events. And as I said, we run this monthly, and we change the topic every month. So, oh, very cool. I don't see questions. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.